Hello, beautiful stars. Courtney here, Stars of the Morning Light. And this is the conclusion video to Edgar Cayce on reincarnation. We will be discussing the chapter of the Law of Grace and the conclusion chapter within this material, written in 1969. So some of the word choices are due to it being in 1969. So when they say man, they mean human. They mean all of us. So, beloveds, there is a playlist where we have covered all of this material, where we have covered a good portion of his biography, where we have covered the secrets of the universe and how to use them. So, this is pre-recorded. Currently, right now, I am visiting my mother, and so I am not in the chat. I am sure I am not in the chat. I have no idea what we're doing, but we're doing something. Please be respectful to one another. Please share what you feel like sharing. What we're covering to finish reincarnation can be triggering to people, can bring deep inner thoughts, can bring maybe new concepts to folks. So we're all learning here. We're all walking the awakening together. So let us begin. And we're going to start with the chapter of the Law of Grace. So if you've been here with Stars of Morning Light, thank you. I appreciate you. If you are new here, please go back to the playlist. It's below in the description. And we have been kind of bouncing back and forth with the last few chapters of this book. I kind of chose to do it that way. At one point, it's because I totally skipped ahead and wasn't paying attention. But I also chose to definitely do the chapter 15, the Law of Grace, and the conclusion at the same time. I think the two go very well together. Very, very well. So, at the beginning of the Law of Grace, there is a case study, and I'm going to do kind of a quick retell of it, and then I will begin reading. So settle in, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I hope all is well. I hope the sun is shining where you're at. Even if it's night, know it will return. All right. So, at the beginning of the chapter of Law of Grace, there's a case study there about a man named Anthony Hollis. Anthony Hollis. Very interesting case study. So Anthony Hollis was a young man, and remember, this is mostly 100 years ago, all 100 years ago, because we're fixing to get into the 30s. A young man who, when he was in college, was dating this girl, and he thought he was going to marry her. Like, this is the one. She ended up cheating on him with his best mate, his friend, and she ended up marrying that guy. Hollis was full of anger and rage, full of vengeance, just could not let this go. Throughout his young adult life, he just was not letting it go. Um, Then he joined the military. He was in the military, and everywhere he was stationed. This is kind of the interesting part. At home in the States, wherever he was stationed, he started having these occurrences of something getting lodged in his throat. But it wasn't just like a typical kind of choking on food, swallowing it down. It was as if his entire body went into full fear, and it felt like he was choking, like full, like something was putting pressure on his neck. This is the moment, right? And it happened over and over and over again. Well, he gets this reading from Edgar. And in this reading, Edgar informs him that many centuries ago, more like he was like a Viking. So many, many centuries ago, his wife in that life had cheated on him and he strangled her to death. I know. And he was like, okay. Well, then, so he gets all this news from Edgar, and it's not really fitting in the parts yet within Hollis's understanding and awareness until one night he's dreaming. He's asleep, he's dreaming, and in his dream, he looks like this angered Viking face of, in rage, right? As we know of like the can't think of the word right now, but that's fine. Um that's fine. Think soldier, right? Think I can't think of the most fierce Viking soldiers right now. For some reason, I can't think of what they're called. That's funny. If you can remember and you're witnessing this, leave me a comment. I'm sure after I'm done recording, I will completely remember. Ain't that how it goes? Um, so he sees himself like that. And then he sees himself choking a woman, but it's not, he knows for he believes it's not the woman from centuries ago. It was the girl in college who cheated on him and left him. He woke up in like a frantic stage, rage. He didn't know what to do. The dream freaked him out. Well, then this is what's interesting too. One of his buddies, so like Hollis is in New York, one of his buddies that he knows from the military that's out in San Francisco apparently had a very similar dream the same night where he sees Hollis in this rage in a face that like he knows it's not the current Hollis, but it's close enough, and he just gets that sense. But he sees this man kind of even chained up and just foaming at the mouth. The persecution of what happened after he did what he did centuries ago. So the friend calls Hollis and is like, "Hey man, I had this dream last night. I'm pretty sure it was you. You all right? What's going on?" And Hollis is now even more freaked out. The dream already disturbed him. His friend calling him already disturbed him. He is remembering the reading from Cayce of somehow this choking stuff is all related, but the woman from college was actually in the dream not centuries ago. Okay. So then he contacts Cayce again. And Cayce does another more in-depth reading. And I mean, it comes into full scope that the woman in college was also the woman from ages ago. We tend to do it again, right? We do it again. But one of the greatest things is she had that affair prior to the connection of marriage, prior. And so he was kind of released from it, but he never released the rage. He never released the anger he had towards both women who were one and the same. So that is how this story begins. So let's get into it, folks, because we are discussing the law of grace. Fascinating case study, right? Fascinating. So in that last reading from Edgar, Edgar wrote this to him. The readings made a great point of suggesting that instead of pursuing an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth law of literal restitution, Hollis should attempt a more enlightened method of evening up his reckoning by forgiveness and prayer. This seemed a complicated task for a man in the 20th century who had apparently hated a woman in Viking Norway in the 8th or 9th century. But the matter was taken out of Hollis's hands. Less than a week later, he dreamed the same macabre dream. This time, the unfamiliar features of a woman took on a ghostly appearance of the girl who had cheated on him in college, and he was strangling her to death with earnest. On a split level, accompanied both, he had now accompanied between dream and karmic reattachment. Hollis began to pray with all the intensity and faith he could muster. He prayed for the spiritual strength to forgive the woman he was strangling. He prayed for her to forgive her adultery. He prayed for himself to be forgiven for having strangled her to death long ago. Anyone who has literally prayed his way back from the deathbed will confirm that once once it attains to a certain intensity, genuine prayer manifests as energy that surmounts all other factors opposing it. So there are many different examples of that earnest, intense prayer. Many times we hear stories of people doing it when they're on their deathbed or when someone else is on their deathbed, when there's been an accident, when this is a, this is you have hit rock bottom and there is nothing else but prayer. That sort of intensity, right? That, that's concentration. Genuine prayer manifests as energy that surmounts all other factors opposing it, even karma, even whatever we've gone through in life. When Hollis woke the next morning, he was aware of the weight gone from his mind, a sense of newly found freedom he had never known before, and the feeling remained with him over the balance of the week. Yet he had no tangible means of assuring himself that his prayers had freed him permanently from the karmic yoke that had hung so heavily around his neck. Literally. Not that is until his phone rang on that Saturday, and he heard the voice of the victim in the dream. She had long divorced his friend and married again. Her second marriage had also floundered. And now, a rich woman, she wandered the world on luxury cruises with her children. She's just an unfaithful woman. She probably has that connection with multiple contracts. For no reason at all, when her ship docked in New York, she found herself thinking of Hollis, with remorse for the way she had jilted him, and her phone call a whim. I do hope you've forgiven me by now. I did treat you so disgracefully, she said. In a heartful burst of relief and gratitude, Hollis assured her that he had forgiven her 1,000 times over. What would Hollis's karmic alternative have been? Surely an increase in the intensity of his choking fits until one did kill him. The debt he owed was to himself for having once committed murder. The fact that in this life the girl herself spared him the misery of having to marry her again, and that he then suffered the same miserable ordeal of her betrayal did not take him off the karmic hook. The murderer had still been committed, or sorry, the murder had still been committed. The law still demanded that it be accounted for. Thus, when the freedom of his throat was in any way obstructed, the symptoms of his physical response were to strangulation, not not ordinary choking. So take this in account. They are saying because he never married this girl in college, they were not fully committed like that. That is a very different commitment other than dating. And she did her cheating early on to release him from the obligation, the connection of marriage within a cheating situation, right? That did not take away what he had done centuries ago. The reason I'm really pointing this out, beloveds, is because the majority of us think of how much war there has been. Think of how much war there has been to harm another, hurt another, kill another, murder another, even if it's out of duty to something else. It's still all the same jazz. So I'm happy that this author chose to use this case study because I can pretty much guarantee. I mean, I've done a lot of readings in my time, a lot. We have done that in some shape or form along the way, some shape and form. And maybe we were persecuted for it at the time. Maybe we weren't because it was quote unquote acts of war. Doesn't really matter with energy, the reason why. But his outward decency towards the girl in the present, plus the fact that once Cayce had explained the karmic cause, Hollis bore her no grudge and wished her no ill, worked in his favor. As soon as he, as soon as hurt pride and outraged vanity had been removed from the picture, the complications vanished also, and he was left to face a clear-cut test. So he was earnestly praying for forgiveness, forgiveness for what he did long ago, centuries ago, what he did. Earnestly praying to forgive him for that. Earnestly praying that he would forgive the girl in college. Earnestly praying that she be forgiven. Earnestly praying that everything's forgiven. All of it. And then she calls out of nowhere. She calls out of nowhere to ask if she has been forgiven. All is energy, folks. And he, in that moment, is thinking, oh goodness, this is it. This is actually my real life in time, the now, that I can tell her that she is forgiven. Because when forgiveness is present, all is free. The source of willpower and concentration Hollis was able to apply to his final prayer of forgiveness is defined very simply in the following words. So this is a quote. Yet it is a fact that a life experience is a manifestation of divinity, and the mind of an entity is the builder. Then, as the entity sets itself to accomplish that which is creative, it comes under the law which operates between karma and grace. No longer is the entity under the law of cause and effect or karma, but rather in grace, he may go on to the higher calling set in him. To be sure, the law applies, said Cayce, in a similar situation. For in the beginning of man, in his becoming a living soul in the earth, laws were established, and these take hold. But do not lose sight of the law of grace, the law of mercy, the law of patience as well. For each has its place, especially when individuals desire to be channels through which God may manifest. Mm, that's beautiful, isn't it, folks? I'm going to read this part just one more time. Then, as the entity sets itself to accomplish that which is creative, creation, it comes under the law which operates between karma and grace. No longer is the entity under the law of cause and effect. We're no longer under the law of cause and effect when forgiveness, instantaneous forgiveness, is within us for ourselves, others, all things. Oh, makes me happy. Makes me happy, beautiful stars. Makes me happy. Let's keep going. Before I start this next case study, there is dialogue in the world currently about the chosen ones, quote unquote, or those are that their lives are maybe a bit more harsher than others. Like it just continuously, something big happens, right? Something tragic. Just the life stories seem very tragic. And or there's a permanent situation within that person's life that is a difficult, like a handicapped that situation that would make us question things. Why am I experiencing all this? And a lot of the dialogue as of current is this idea that we have um like all of our karma is trying to like fill in real quick in this life so we can sort out all that we've ever done and whatever karmic residue we have left, energy that we have left that we need to sort out. Well, first of all, we just understood how we sorted out forgiveness. Please hear that. That's how we sorted out forgiveness. Um, but there's a lot of talk about that. And I understand. I mean, I thought that way for a long time until I learned true forgiveness. And that because of instantaneous forgiveness, I do not live under cause and effect. Oh, it's wonderful to be of creation. Um, Within that though, I do know there's a lot of people that wonder, why have I gone through this? So this next case study might be even more for you. So let's dig in. And I hope everybody's doing well out there. The second case is that of Vera Eldridge, housewife, age 53. Here we see the error made by an advanced soul whose path has been almost too physically hard to bear, in assuming that her karmic debts have demanded their reckoning, that she is about to be visited by her old guilts. So this beloved Vera, she, the author just tells us, she is actually an advanced soul. But in this life, her body is handicapped. She's a what they would have called back then a sickly person, right? She's got physical aspects to her that make it difficult to participate in life like others may. And so she is thinking, when they said error here, it's her own thinking that, oh my goodness, I have this handicap, I have this deformity, what have you, disability, right? Disability, whatever it may be. I have this because it must be my past karma is coming through to give me a reckoning. And that is taught, beloveds. I was actually taught that mentality as a child. That those who are crippled in some way, shape, or form in this life, it's because they did something in the past life. This, though, is telling us that no, she's actually a much advanced soul. And that that form of thinking has an error. It's incorrect. So, why should I come into this life with such a broken physical body? It seems that I have been through hell, and I have often wondered, what have I saved myself for? I have always wanted to be a service to humanity, but had no strength. Why did I bring such a broken body to live in? Have I committed a great crime in the past? These were questions for Edgar. Cayce's answers were couched entirely in warm reassurance. This entity was associated with one who persecuted the church so thoroughly and who fiddled while Rome burned during the time of Nero. Like they were a part of Nero. That's the reason why this entity has been disfigured by the structural conditions of the present body. Yet, yet, this entity may be set apart. For through her experience in the earth, she had advanced from a low degree to a point where another reincarnation in the earth may not even be necessary. Not that she has reached perfection, but remember, the material and material urges exist in other consciousnesses, not in just the three-dimensional. There are other realms for instruction. If the entity will hold fast to the ideals of those at whom she once scoffed, the Christians in Rome, there is more that might be said. But we would minimize the faults and we would magnify the virtues. And little or nothing could be given that would deter the entity in any way, for as Joshua did of the old, she has determined that others may do as they may, but as for me, I will serve the living God. As to the abilities, who would give glory to the morning sun? Who would tell the stars how to be beautiful? Keep that faith which has prompted thee. Many will gain much from thy present or patience, thy consistency, thy love. That was the reading, and we're going to continue. In that reading, it is clearly said, hey, you did do some bad stuff way back when, but you've already sorted that out. You are an advanced soul. I'm going to read it again, folks. She had advanced from a low degree to the point where another reincarnation in the earth may not even be necessary. And then it starts talking about, like, hey, and there are other dimensions than just the third dimension consciousness living. Not that she had reached perfection. Keep looking for the perfection. I don't know where it is, man. I ain't seen it. I have never seen it in any of the dimensions. I don't know where this perfection is. I don't know where this perfection is. Uh, Somebody tell me, where is it? I don't know, crawl into that cave where perfection lies? Because I don't know where it exists. I don't think it does. I'm being cute here because it's so we can let go of that. Not that she has reached perfection, but remember the material and the material urges exist in other consciousnesses, not in just the third dimensional. And right above that is when they're talking about she advanced so much that she doesn't necessarily have to come back to this 3D. She knows what it's all about. She's got it. She's good. So some of this is for her to just be who she is. Because the more that we do like everybody else, the more we're not ourself. And this is who she is. She has learned. Others may do as they may. But as for me, I will serve the living God. Beautiful. So, and then we're going to read it again. As to the abilities, because we put so much of our abilities into what our bodies are capable of. As to the abilities, who would give glory to the morning sun? Who would tell the stars how to be beautiful? Keep that faith which has prompted thee. Many will gain much from thy patience, thy consistency, thy love. This woman, by her gracious and unselfish way of life, had achieved grace without even realizing it at the conscious level. Her long karmic wanderings were over. To be sure, individuals grow in grace, in knowledge, in understanding, and as they apply that which they know, the next step is shown to them. For he promised, I will be with thee always, even unto the end of the world. He was with thee in the beginning. You wandered away. To be sure, individuals, they grow in grace, This is every time that accident doesn't happen. Every time you just did something real bogus and the boss did not fire you. All of these things that often we call life lessons that we learned from it. Like, oh, I did this, but what should have been the effect didn't happen. Or I witnessed this and what should have probably been the effect did not happen. Oh, if I do X, Y, and Z, this is the outcome. But yet, hmm, I learned my lesson, but it didn't happen. I learned my lesson, but it didn't happen. Hmm. Grace. Because if it had happened, would you have learned? To be sure, individuals grow in grace, in knowledge, in understanding, and as they apply experience that which they know, the next step is shown to them. Gladys Turner Davis, Edgar Cayce's permanent secretary from 1923 to his death, transcribed nearly every reading in his files, not once, but 5 times over, has remained as selflessly loyal to him as she was in his lifetime. So Gladys continued to live after Edgar was gone, and she remained loyal. In his biography, we have not gotten to Gladys yet, definitely not yet. When we do, this is going to be a fascinating part of his biography. And we also have materials from Gladys, resource materials, that she wrote about. What is it like to have an intimate relationship that is not his wife, but think of just our close friends, intimate relationship with someone like Edgar? No other member of the ARE possesses her unique familiarity with the readings, and perhaps no one else exemplifies so obstructively the application of the law of grace to everyday existence. So nothing wavers her, nothing obstructs Gladys from using the law of grace daily. And grace and forgiveness are so intertwined. Some might argue they are the same. I think forgiveness is kind of, I don't know, if grace and forgiveness are a delicious ice cream cone of life that takes everything away and we just feel good in that moment with that ice cream cone, forgiveness would be the base and grace is all that lovely ice cream. And then hope are all the sprinkles. I love it. She considers it was a rare occasion when he told someone their soul was so far advanced that they need not return to earth again. On one of the rare occasions, when she was persuaded to express herself on paper, she pays Edgar this tribute. During Mr. Cayce's lifetime, I can only remember 3 instances in which an individual's claim their life ratings were incorrect, only 3 out of nearly 2,500. So, first of all, they said it is very rare in a Cayce reading, very rare for an Akashic to report that an entity is so advanced they can choose if they want to come back or not. They can choose if on their next round they're actually living in fifth, seventh dimensional living, that it was rare back 100 years ago. Not so rare, in my opinion, of today, but that's my opinion. I don't think it's as rare as it was 100 years ago. And it is because of beautiful beings like Edgar that we learned from, and we got to understand our reincarnated selves, and then took the steps to move past any karma, cause and effect, be of true creation that is love, forgiveness, grace, right? I think we have. I think there's more, I don't know, folks, because maybe I'm just very optimistic because in my own experience, as in doing readings for others, no, that actually is not the case. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just very optimistic out there. But yeah, as my mind searches through all the readings that I have done since what, 2017, um, no, that's that has not been the case yet. But I am optimistic and I believe it can. I think we can change all the time. I think we can make it happen. It just takes awareness. We can do this. And then it goes into that out of like all the 2,500 readings, there was only like three or five. Oh, only three out of nearly 2,500 that when Edgar sent them their life reading and the person received it, they were like, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's accurate. And I will go on to say that a lot of it in those three was a part of that reading was about like their 6-year-old kid. So they just got that life rating and went, yeah, no, that's not it. But then later, because Gladys also, there was always follow-up, by the way. There was always follow-up. Let's say you got a reading, and then, a year or two later, you got a letter in the mail from, the ARE that would say, hey, you got a reading 2 years ago. How's it suit you? Like, what's your experience from it? Which is good. We needed that. We needed the follow-up to have confirmation with a lot of things. So the three out of the 2,500 life readings, personal readings, the ones that were rejected were actually at first were of like they were getting a reading for their child. Well, then if you actually, because Gladys will say it, they would then get a letter much later, like when the child is 20 or so, reporting, yeah, now we found that reading back in the cabinet somewhere, reread it. Yeah, it's kind of spot on. Sorry for rejecting it before. I guess the kid needed to grow up, right? Because now everything is glaring, right? So that is good to know that sometimes with readings, and this has happened to me, I get a reading from Mary Jo Tarvin. Bless her. She's my reader. Readers need readers, right? Same as, therapists need therapists. Like we all need someone that does the same thing as we do, right? Because yeah, we all need that. So anyways, like mechanics need other mechanics. They really do. That kind of thing. People need one another. So, um, out of all of that, Gladys was able to reinsure people. I'm catching where I want to go with this. Even if 1 in 24 had been completely wrong, that is unheard of percentage in the field of psychic research, perhaps in any line of research. Those of us who know from experience the value of these readings are not only privileged, but in fact obligated to press on toward perfection, carrying a torch not just for the theory of reincarnation, but for the whole Christian way of life as taught by him. Now, do you remember Edgar Cayce, those closest to him, his community, his family? They were all Christians. And so then it goes into how these readings of identifying what happened back in your past life can help you work towards, and yes, Glass wrote the word perfection. Um, I don't believe there is such a thing. Um, but either or, resolution, freedom, karmic debts, as we so to speak, to be able to create freely, right? To exercise our freedom of creation once the release of cause and effect is present. So she was trying to say, out of 2,500 readings, very little had ever said that it doesn't apply. At some point, they are realizing it, acknowledging it. Oh, this is what Edgar was talking about. I should make note of that now because it's presenting itself now. So that is one key aspect of the whole reincarnation thing because we're about to go to, that is how this chapter ends. We're about to go to the conclusion. One of the aspects in this whole reincarnation, regeneration, life lived, life lessons, karma is actually acknowledging what's happening on in the present. And unfortunately, we live in the 3D living, conscious experience. And in 3D, it's just distraction after distraction, going through the motions, going through the emotions. I mean, I just turned to my husband just 20 minutes before I'm here recording with you. The whole household's kind of just, ugh, today. And I just turned to him, I said, well, sweetheart, it was kind of actually a very emotional week. It really was, but we probably didn't acknowledge it. And then he finished my sentence. He said, yeah, because we're getting through it. We were just moving through it. We're just getting going. We're just getting what we have to get done. So one of the good things about actually knowing our past is that it helps to identify what we're actually going through in the present. And in the present is where we practice the law of grace. In the present is when we forgive. In the present, it's when we look at ourselves. So that is where, if you get readings, if you get readings from whomever, right? Um, that's why it's handy. That's why it's handy. But we can do that. We can do that regardless of knowing our past lives or not. If something is triggering our bodies, I mean, our bodies are the first sign to anything. Anything that is going on within us or around us that we are most likely not acknowledging, our bodies are going to tell us. Same with him choking on all sorts of different stuff. Body, all sorts of different stuff. Same with the woman who was crippled and couldn't do the physical things that she wanted to do for others. And her whole goal was to be a service to humanity, Because her body was the way she was, she automatically thought she was not of service. But that body that is crippled was actually there to represent and tell her it's not in your deeds, it's in your presence. Chapter 19, conclusion. Conclusion. I will be jumping around this last little chapter. This has been a fun journey we've been on, folks. This has been, I hope it's been fun for you. I hope it's been a little bit insightful, a little inspiring, a little bit entertaining. You know, I hope it's been a whole entree and encore of things, however you want to put it. I hope it has been. We started this journey with Edgar Cayce on reincarnation quite a while ago, quite a while ago. And for it to come to its conclusion and to come to the law of grace, where we all learn by, I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect timing. I think it's perfect. I think we got what we needed, and we don't worry about if we didn't, because everything's right as rain. Chapter 19, conclusion. Reincarnation, then, is a theory. It is a practical code of ethics directly affecting human morality. In the moment, morality. I'll read that again. Reincarnation, then, is a theory. It is a practical code of ethics directly affecting, meaning current and ongoing, affecting human morality. Edgar Cayce's ratings accept it equivocally and repeatedly insist that positive and negative conduct in earlier lives actively affect behavior patterns in the present. That which is negative can be resolved and overcome. Once a man is prepared to accept his problems as being entirely of his own making, and therefore responsive to his unmaking. And once again, beloveds, when he's saying man, he means all of us, human. So I'm going to read that again. So they are saying Edgar Cayce had always said, unequivocally, and repeatedly insisted that positive and negative conduct in earlier lives actively affect behavior patterns in present. That which is negative can be resolved and overcome. Once a man is prepared to accept his problems as as being entirely of his own making, and therefore responsive to his unmaking, no one else is going to be able to restore, heal, change, overcome, resolve our karma. They might be attached as contracts go. They got their own karma, and you might be attached to theirs. But our karma is ours, and it is ours to undo, to redefine, to reshape, as in the law of grace, forgiveness, hope. There is no historical proof that Atlantis ever existed. But 500 years ago, there was no historical proof that America existed. For that matter, there is no historical proof that the Dead Sea Scrolls ever existed. On nearly every subject under the sun, most men will believe almost any lie, provided that it is big enough, absurd enough, that is repeated often enough and never dream of demanding proof. Likewise, he will believe what he reads in the papers and what he sees on the newscasts as implicitly as if Moses had brought them down from Mount Sinai engraved on stone. He will totally accept the election promises of a demiurge. Wow. He is blindly convinced that his lawyer, his doctor, his dentist are infallible and incorruptible. So the author is fixing to get into an argument here, as in, is there reincarnation? Is there not reincarnation? And does that, hmm, actually even matter if this all has to do with a soul, human consciousness, ethics, moral of codes, right? Morals. In the now, in the present morals. Reincarnation, then, is a theory. It is a practical code of ethics directly affecting human morality. Why is the karmic law of rebirth and restitution such a scapegoat for the orthodox mind? Is it the fact that every soul in creation will have to voluntarily return and experience the emotional equivalent, good and bad, of all that he has caused others to experience? The fact that whatever weakness we persecuted in others, we shall eventually inherit with all that attended persecution. The fact that each soul is its own judge and its own jury and passes sentence only on itself. So he's arguing, why do people deny this? Is it because this karmic law of rebirth, restitution that is coming along the stream with us in reincarnation? Do we deny it because we would have to take responsibility of all that stuff we did? The fact that each soul is its own judge and own jury and passes the sentence only on itself. The fact that the hereafter shudders no bridal judge, no jury to be bamboozled. The fact that in the last analysis, the only person anyone has ever kidded was himself, and unsuccessfully at that. Are these all, this is all little arguments as to why does the world deny this? Is it because we would truly have to take care of our own code of ethics, human morality in the moment? And nobody wants to do that. We all want to put this concept of judge and jury onto a completely different concept and entity out there. You know, when we get to heaven and the pearly gates, if your name is not written in the book of life, they're gonna, a big old life review is gonna happen, all sorts of stuff. People talk about these near-death experiences, and some refer to the whole life review flashes before their eyes. Who do you think that's for? That's not for somebody else. That's for us. That's for you. That's for me. And I suggest doing that often before you get to the death. So you can go, ooh, in the moment, I didn't do that so well. Let's apologize. Let's forgive. Let's heal. Let's move on. Let's remove the cause and effect from that through the power of grace. But we like to put this concept of some kind of hierarchy of judgment when this is all self, all self. But who wants to actually judge themselves? yet we do it all the time. Why do you think we do it all the time? Is it because, like they just said, the fact that in the last analysis, which we didn't read, the only person anyone has ever kidded was himself, and unsuccessfully at that. The only person you're actually manipulating is yourself. Our obsessive preoccupation with external super faculties and our severe anxiety to conform to the modern not only rob us of individuality and stature, but they corrode us until we become complacent and stuntified. He's talking about that higher being out there, judge, and also like just keep moving along with the humans, everybody just conform. I don't look at myself and I don't look at you, and we're not looking at things. It is only because we have rejected the law of reincarnation that we squander three-quarters of our lives impressing others, pretending to be what we're not. If so, there will be, there will have to, if so, there will have to come a time when we find it almost impossible to be honest with ourselves. And by then, nothing will be more painfully and desperately necessary to our sanity. The more we're manipulating ourselves to placate the world. And what does it matter anyways? Because we'll be judged about it later. But apparently that being has all the grace, not us. The more we do that, the more we do that, the more we are hmm, hurting our soul. If so, there will have to come a time when we find it almost impossible to be honest with ourselves. You are not you then. You are what you presented. You are what you presented. And probably to, and as it says, and by then, so by then, when you have manipulated yourself and denied yourself enough to placate the world and a apparent judging God, and by then nothing will be more painfully and desperately necessary to our sanity to get honest with ourselves, to understand that this has to do with us. I can only fix my karma. I can only find resolution with self. I can only feel that peace within the release of the cause and effect within myself. But it takes getting real honest. Because, as they just said, we can spend the first three-quarters of one particular life. So, hey, all you adults out there, we can spend the first three-quarters of our life going through the motions, being what they want us to be, and never actually looking at ourselves, truly looking at ourselves. It's so sad, but there comes a point in so many people's lives. This is often what's called a midlife crisis, by the way. But then within those midlife crises, we're still too scared to look at ourselves. And because 3D tells us so, we start attaching material items and, you know, gratification so many ways, right? Opposed to really looking at we've denied who we are for the first three-quarters of our life. Perhaps the unpalatable ingredient lies in the fact that even when it is reduced to humblest factors, reincarnation offers little, if any, consultation to the neurotic who blames his boozy mom and boozy dad for the fact that he has never taken a slightest trouble to make himself likable, let alone lovable to others. It has no offer. The drone who sunnily, sorry, sits and waits to be loved for all his faults, for his shifty shift, for his shiftlessness, his gold bricking, his buck passing, his longing to play the bully boy without being made to play the piper for it. That was a lot of old phrases that I started reading the phrases and went, okay, in my mind, I'm thinking we don't use any of these anymore. What this is saying is maybe we reject reincarnation because we love being the victim. We love blaming our parents for why we're not loved. We love bullying others because we know we're not liked. We like blaming others as to why we're not getting what we want out of life. That reincarnation gives absolutely no, he said consultation, meaning it gives it no counsel. Like your parents of this life, your relationships of this life are not why you are the way you are. That is your own responsibility. Not saying that doesn't shape, we'll get into it, but we have to we have to be responsible for our own stuff, right? But reincarnation, for the mere fact that it's based on you resolving your own, then, now, forever, there is no victimhood. That is hard for folks because we're always looking for the cause. It's so interesting. We're always looking for the why and the cause to, in my humble opinion, pass the buck to somebody else. When why does for me, the why and the cause is not that important if we are changing it in the now. If we're in the now saying, I forgive you. I I have full grace. I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to do that instead. I'm going to practice all of the secrets of the universe that we covered with Edgar. I'm going to do all of this stuff in the now, regardless of what has happened to me. That is difficult for many. Difficult for many. We continuously are always looking for the why, to examine the why. The why might be from centuries ago when you were living, and so have fun finding that out without getting a reading or really doing some deep dream work, which not everybody's gifted with that. Have fun doing that because that is going to be very hard because not everything is about the current. The only thing about the current is that we can change. It's the greatest thing about being a human. We have the capacity to surprise ourselves, meaning in the moment, we can make a completely different decision based on grace, forgiveness, love, based on all of that hope, based on all of that. Therefore, releasing the cause and effect that we had been playing out. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's amazing. Takes personal responsibility. And these are words from Edgar. So often is the ego so enwrapped in itself, Edgar Cayce said, that it constantly fears it will lose its importance, its place, its freedom. Yet to have freedom in self, give it. To have peace in self, make it. These are immutable laws, for impatience possesses your souls. In patience, you become aware that the body is but a temple, the outward evidence. But the mind and the soul are the permanent furnishings thereof, the essentials in which you shall constantly abide. This certainly clashes with the fine old materialistic maximum that the world hates a loser and admires the self-made big shot, no matter how many victims he leaves in his wake. Edgar Cayce is saying that personal response in the now, right now. Let's read those responsibilities again. Yet to have freedom in self, to have freedom within yourself, give it. Beloveds, this is what forgiveness does. When we are capable of forgiving ourselves and others, we are freeing them and we are freeing us from the own traps of our mind. That is grace. Grace is allowing others to do as they do, but for you, you serve in your light, as the woman learned, advanced soul, allow others to do as they may, and we forgive them. I've said it many a times here, many a times, that years and years ago, because it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not, this is a beautiful mantra to use. Many, many years ago, I originally would start telling myself constantly, forgive us, for we know not what we do. Forgive us, for we know not what we do. Because there is so much that goes on with us internally, and then we act it out, or just internally, that we're not even really aware of until more awareness comes through, until more self review happens, right? So forgive us, for we know not what we do. That was me practicing forgiving myself and forgiving others. Forgive us, for we know not what we do, because I am no different than them. Forgive us, for we know not what we do, because man, I'm messing up all over the place. Forgive us, for we know not what we do. Clearly, there's not too much difference between me and them. No matter what the situation is, no matter how it played out, wow, I can see myself in that mirror, right? Forgive us, for we know not what we do. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Forgive, forget. Forgive is clean. Forgive, it's grace. And then it turned into forgive them, for they know not what they do. I will tell you that. For me personally, in my healing process, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because I do know everyone is on a journey. And so that it was where I was learning, allow them to do as they may. Allow them to do as they may. I forgive them instantaneously. I love them instantaneously. Because now it's not forgive us, for we know not what we do. It's not for me, forgive them, for they know not what they do. For me, it is now love them, for they know not what they do. That is an advanced soul. looking, witnessing, allowing, watching, going, okay. I don't know why they do what they do. That's what all these questions in my shorts are about. I don't know why. It makes it fascinating to question and wonder because we are all mirrors of one another. So I do ask those, but I don't judge anyone. Forgive us for we know not what we do. Forgive them for they know not what they do. Love them for they know not what they do. Allow, 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 because I am only responsible for myself. Hmm. And it's so funny because we do live in that world. Everything that I just said, and Casey said, and this beautiful writer said, this certainly clashes with the fine old materialistic maximum that the world hates a loser and admires the self-made big shot, no matter how many victims he leaves in his wake. No matter how much he is not looking at himself and what he does, we put him on a pedestal. Because why? He's got a boat and a mansion? Yeah, forget about it. So then there is a very long part in this chapter of who was a theologian. Um, Let me find his name, folks. Let me find his name. He was a big theologian, I believe, in London, who really was talking out against reincarnation. It is also written in this section that there are still little subtle hints of talking about reincarnation in the Bible, talking about reincarnation here and there, but we all understand that a lot of it was just stricken from the record. And it's because if we were to take personal responsibility for our soul, then what's the point of the big guy, right? What's the point of having to need a Messiah? And what's the point of this big guy in the sky watching everything if everything actually was on us to take care of ourselves? Huge arguments, right? So a lot of this chapter was going back and forth between what was in 1969 and also when Edgar was living in the 30s and whatnot doing this, the arguments of this is not a thing. This cannot be a thing. And there's lots, I mean, we can understand why. And people can have their arguments. I mean, even today, people are going to have their arguments about it. That is, that's fine. That's fine. To him, the abiding heresy of reincarnation is that man is a free agent and his God is a God of love. This means that until he has learned to love his fellow man, no further knowledge of his maker is available to him. That was a part of the argument. It is very odd for humans to really wrap their head around they are free agents. They are free agents in creation. They are free agents in their healing. They are free agents in their resolution to their karma. They are free agents, right? What confronts him next? The unfathomable fact that no man is capable of loving others until he has overcome the obstacles which prevent him from loving himself. If he can never love or become lovable to others, it follows as logically as day follows night, that others can never love or become lovable to him. In this case, he is now in sorrow and mortal trouble. For if he can neither love nor be loved, he will be engulfed by the ethereal night of implacable loneliness. Loneliness is man's most lethal adversary, for it is only poison which can ultimately and in which can ultimately exterminate the soul. So during this argument, it is, we are not free agents. It is only only God that can heal us, save us, love us. So then the argument was like, no, 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 because what is all this talk about loving your fellow man? Love your enemies as yourself. Love your strangers as yourself. Love your neighbors as yourself. Love yourself and all the others. So here's the argument, right? Like we're kind of understanding, and isn't love our responsibility as well, right? So then the combative argument is, no, we are free agents, even if we don't fully understand it, and it's probably because we don't know love. It's probably because we don't give it and experience it, because it starts with self. And a whole lot of people do not, especially at the time where this argument was happening within this material, based from 100 years ago, um, of the 1920s, 30s, 40s, the arguments against reincarnation, and then somebody writing about it in 1969. Y'all, we have advanced a lot, even within the church, right? Even within, I think, didn't the didn't the Pope just in the past couple of years or just this past year, I mean, I don't know, um, admit like, yeah, reincarnate, or the Pope said, we don't have any definitive proof, right, that it exists, but we're also not going to deny it. That was such a big leap, and that just happened, I think, recently, and I'm recording this in 2025. So, yeah. So that concept of like, wait a minute, but the Bible says this, it's a contradiction here. Are we a free agent? Or is everything predetermined by destiny, God, this judge and jury in the sky? And how does love relate to all of this? Right? I'm circling this area because this is hands down fundamental information to understanding how to release the cause and effect, how to move through and get that restitution that we want, that resolve of our karma that we want. So, what confronts him next? The unfathomable fact that no man is capable of loving others until he has overcome the obstacles which prevent him from loving himself. You are not capable of actually giving forgiveness until you forgive yourself. You should be first on the list. You are not capable of loving another until you love yourself. Forgive us, for we know not what we do. Love us, for we know not what we do. Love them, for we know not what we do, right? We are not capable as free agents to do that for others, to free them and free ourselves from the traps of the mind, unless it starts with us. Love thy enemy as thyself. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Love thy... Got it. But real quick, as it says, loneliness is man's most lethal adversary. So this whole trouble If he can never love or become lovable to others, it follows as logically as day follows night that others can never love or become lovable to him. In which case, he is now in sorrow and mortal trouble. For if he can neither love nor be loved, he will be engulfed by the eternal night of implacable loneliness. Loneliness is man's most lethal adversary, for it is only poison which can ultimately exterminate the soul. So, beloved readers, I just said readers, I'm sorry. Listeners, followers, thank you. Um, I'm almost finishing to the end here. In that regard, what I do know from the countless readings that I have done, what I do know is that loneliness that starts being healed and filled with first loving thyself, right? And that also goes along with, as this tattoo on my arm says, know thyself. Back to when, are you still trying to manipulate yourself? Are you still trying to kid yourself? Are you still placating the 3D? Because if you're doing that, then you're also not loving yourself. Because it takes really knowing thyself, accepting thyself to love oneself. The loneliness that can engulf someone based on that. What I do, this is, I'm just giving my opinion here based on the countless readings I've done. That loneliness is not just despair, not just poison. It can actually exterminate the soul. Exterminate the soul. It exterminates the soul because if a soul in a long stretch of time can get itself down to zero, and I mean zero, I mean zero hope, that soul will be exterminated. And usually it is extremely difficult for a soul to get down to zero, -1, let's say, to make this make even more sense, -1 of hope. It is extremely difficult. It is extremely difficult, by the way. But those who have been able to, usually the body, uh, the body is released of its obligation. Let's put it that way. The body is released of its obligation. And then they go to not another land, another dimension, another place and time, another planet. They do not do that. Those who the hope is so low, they actually go back to the void where it all began, the complete darkness, the everlasting night. And in there, there's the decision made of you have zero hope. You never want to exist again because it's the void. It can do that. The decision is made there. And or they're there, they realize, oh, this would be the nothing. This would actually be the nothing. That nothing has ever been like this. which usually reminds them that they're not at zero. They're not at complete loss of hope. And usually then they are washed very clean, very, very clean. And then they come back. And then they come back. They reincarnate. And in that reincarnation, and this is just from readings, numerous readings I've had. And then usually from that experience, that choice again, that nothing is ever going to be like the void. So let's not lose hope, right? Let's not lose hope entirely because ain't nothing that, which is also where creation comes from. It's beautiful, something out of nothing. Everything is everything and everything is nothing. It's beautiful, but we don't live there. We don't experience there. We non-exist there. There is no more existence. So, when they come back, usually their life is actually very more advanced, much more advanced because they just experienced something that most of us will never experience. It's that's the ultimate choice, right? That's the ultimate choice. It's beautiful. That stems that entire thing that I just went through. So oftentimes, uh, things are kind of calculated. Let's say you as a free agent, you actually are calculating oftentimes based on your percentage, degree, what have you, amount of hope. So how much hope do you have? How much hope do you have right now? I ain't talking about then, I ain't talking about in the future. How much hope do you have? So, those who are at zero, -1, what have you, that is always stemmed from that loneliness. Mm. And that loneliness comes from not being our authentic self, denying who we are, and therefore, I don't love me, no one loves me, loneliness. Oh, it's so tragic. It's so tragic. I love everyone and it's hope. Hope. So the very end of this is talking about the dogmas, which I think we've covered a lot. And a bit, one of the arguments was, none of us as adults can remember every little thing that happened to us as we grew up, but yet we do know that it affects us. So, how is this in relation to karma and reincarnation? Because we do have to shift it and change it and heal it in the now. So, that's another one of the arguments, right? It does come down to that. Our life of now is a very good example as to the totality of our lives. And it always will be. Are you operating in grace? Are you operating in forgiveness? Do you have self-love? So therefore you can give it to others. Let us remind ourselves of what Edgar said. Mm, it's so beautiful. Yet to have freedom in self, give it. To have peace in self. Make it. These are immutable laws. For impatience possesses your souls. In patience, you become aware that the body is but a temple, but the mind and soul are the permanent furnishings. Isn't it beautiful that it says patience? Patience. How much patience do you think you possess if you've come 1,000 times over? For impatience possesses you. Freedom possesses you. It's in yourself. You got to give it to others. Allow, allow, allow. Peace, peace, it possesses you. You make it. You make it in your life, in your world, in your internal being. It's there. If presence is there, if you are a free agent, patience is there, freedom is there, peace is there, grace is there, forgiveness is there, hope is there. All of it is there. Are you kidding yourself? I'm going to read this last little bit. And this is a rebuttal, but I want to end on this. But how can a world progress in inner things, which are the most important, if the birth of every new generation fills the world with unregenerated souls full of untamed animal tendencies? Meaning, look around, look around. You have all done this 1,000,000 times over. There are, I don't, I'm yet to meet a fresh soul, a brand new little baby soul just created, fresh here on earth. How can a world progress that way? If if there is no such thing as reincarnation, we would not be where we are at any time in civilization, right? We would not be where we are if we all just, if everybody was brand new each time, brand new, brand new. No, no way. There can never be a perfect world unless gradually those born into it can take advantage of the lessons learned in earlier lives instead of starting at scratch. True, the number of prodigies is small, and so is the number of saints. But there may well be other planets more adequate than this to be their classroom. It may be that we must relinquish the idea of this earth being the venue of the perfect society. So do remember this was written in 1969, and it's been such a pleasure going through it. That last little bit, none of you are new. None of you are new. None of you are fresh. You only get one shot. Don't mess it up. Holy goodness, is that a dogma that is terrifying? Is terrifying. Talk about the restraints put onto the human with that one. Oh my God. Anyways, so you've been here a lot. You've been here a lot. And thank you. Thank you for keep coming. Thank you for choosing. Thank you for learning, evolving, processing, progressing, all the above. Thank you for not losing hope. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been awesome rides. It's been a ton of awesome rides, right? Thank you. Because as they just said, we there's a lot of terms of perfection in this. I don't think we're actually reaching for perfection. And as I said, there might be a whole nother venue out there for the perfect ones to go to. Who knows? But what I do know is that we keep progressing here and we're not doing a bad job. We're really not. We're not doing a bad job. I know the images that are, on all the screens, on all the papers, on the lips of others. I know all the perceptions, the illusions of the 3D placating, navigating, misusing, abusing, third dimensional living consciousness, low, low. We just read it today. Low, right? It said to such a low degree, right? I don't believe we're doing that bad of a job. And the reason I can say that right now is because more so ever in history, and I'm not going to go into all the energies. I am though articulating right now, more so in the majority of history that I can wrap my memory around. Humans are identifying the need for self-love, the need for self-love, because it starts with self. And I think you could probably agree with me. Leave a comment below. I think you could probably agree with me that we, in our beautiful system of operations matrix of the right now, 2025, there's more out there serving us, as in reminding us it starts with self. We love ourselves. Because it is very, very true. If we do not get honest with ourselves, if we do not heal ourselves, if we do not take responsibility for ourselves and stop being a victim, a martyr, all of it, it's all the same jazz. If we don't stop doing that, then we're in trouble. But I see it. I see it out there. I see all the people reminding each other, love yourself, self-care, self-love, constantly. We ain't never done that. So if this all starts with us, our individual self, could you imagine if all those people that are reminded constantly to do that, to love themselves in to the degree that they were then able and capable of loving others within the law of grace, within all the hope, within all the forgiveness, within all the love keeps no record of wrongs. Love them for they know not what they do. Allow everyone to do as they may, because I know what I'm doing. Could you imagine that? That is why I think we're doing pretty good. Keep it up, stars. We're doing pretty good. I think so. And it's probably because everybody's done this over and over and over again. So, to conclude, Edgar Cayce on reincarnation with commentary 100 years forward, which is the whole purpose of Edgar Cayce Life Skill Studies. I just want to clap. If I could clap real loud, I would. Congratulations, everybody. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say it's not painful. I'm not going to say it's not hard. But keep choosing you because you're doing a great job. Bye, folks. Thank you for viewing, stars. Leave a comment below. I appreciate all of you.